Hey everybody, here is a screencast on how to attack the FRQ. Let's get into it. So, how do I get you to write a good response? There's four things that really need to happen. Read, rubric, respond, routine. Alright, so the four R's here. So the first one is read. What you need to do is read the darn question. Alright, begin by carefully reading it and then read it again. If there's any maps or diagrams, look at them. Right? Where have we seen this before? What unit does this come from? What vocab words can I associate with this map or diagram? Underline or highlight any directive words. That is something that I will get to later. So, rubric. Be the rubric or the question that is being answered. That's what the rubric is. Break down the question into its grouped topics. So there might be two different topics within the question or three different topics, so you need to decide where you need to focus on one group and the next group and be able to show that you know the clear difference between the two and work out how many points each section is going to be worth, and I'll show you that in a second. Right here. So set up a framework for the response the same way it's formatted in the question. So if it's asking you to describe, you might have to describe 2 points here, offering you 2 whole points for A. For B, what you might do is discuss points 1 and 2 and discuss points 3 and 4, accumulating for 4 total points in B, adding up for question 1 to 6 points. So you should be able to decipher where this topic is and where this topic is and be able to associate the point values with those. So the response. What you guys can do is brainstorm anything you know that's related to the topic. Take a few minutes, organize your thoughts, and really look at the question, and if there's a graph, maybe writing down vocab that is associated with that, trying to really pull what chapter or unit this is from and being able to really just insert some of those key little details that we've talked about. So write on the question if you want. If there's a diagram, label it. Scribble anything you want all over the question or any of the pictures that they give you. Just don't do it inside of the writing box. That's a big no-no. So, provide specific, detailed support for any answer you give. Use examples from text, class discussion, assignments, and current events. If you're referencing a class discussion, don't say Mr. Lenski said this or Mr. Lenski told us this. All right, you don't need to reference me. It's more of the content rather than what I've said. Now, if the question asks for 2 examples, maybe give 3 or 4. I would lean more towards 3 because if you can't give a clear and quality 4th response or example, don't give it. If you feel that you're not confident with number 4, leave it out. And then you have to answer the question, guys and girls. Begin writing, and you do not need to write an intro or conclusion. What you really need to do is, after you're done with all of this brainstorming that I talked about, just get into writing it, all right? And we will go over how to really present a great answer to a question in class. This next one's pretty self-explanatory. Whenever you can, integrate any geographic terms that we've talked about. Vocab list is going to be your best friend here, so I would definitely brush up on that before any writing happens when you're preparing. Routine. So, when you've finished writing your answer, go through your outline and your answer together to then cross off things that you have answered and making sure that you're hitting all of your points. Now, after you've done all of the double checking, just read it again. It doesn't hurt to always keep reading it over. It's not a huge, long drawn out explanation of, how to solve world hunger. It's pretty simple. So just give it a rundown once more. Directive words. Here is something that you guys will need to pay attention to when looking at FRQ questions. So effective answers to essay questions such as the FRQ depend on a clear understanding of the meaning of directive words. All right, so if I'm asking you to describe, or if you describe when you're asked to compare, or list when you're being asked to evaluate, the response is going to get a little shaky. The reader isn't going to understand because you're not following the directive word of what they want you to do. So here are some examples. All right, so here is the first one. Analyze. Determine component parts and examine their nature and relationship. So this is going to be generally more complex answers, are going to require 1 to 2 points. I'd probably lean more towards 2, but if you can't give a solid second one, I probably would not write it. Assess, evaluate. So judge the value or character of something, evaluate the positive points and the negative ones, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of something. Okay, so what I'm telling you when I'm reading this off here or here is what you should be doing if they're directing you to do either one of these. All right, so this is generally going to be 1 or 2 points here for assess or evaluate. Compare, examine in order to show similarities, or here differences. Define. This is going to be a pretty easy one, easy point for you to just define a term. Describe, give an amount of, tell about, give a word picture, or like paint a picture of something. Again, this is going to be another pretty easy point, a bread and butter point, because it comes natural. And typically these will lead off the section of an FRQ just to kind of get you in the rhythm of the topic that you're going to be taking on. So for discuss, what you're going to do is consider or examine from various points of view, or debate, present the different sides of an argument or something like that. And this is going to be more in depth. You're going to want 2 points, if not 3 here. For the next one, explain. What you need to do is either make something clear or plain by explaining, make clear sense, the cause or reasonings for something, making something known in detail, or tell the meaning of something. And this is going to be you're going to want to do this in detail because it's an explanation, and you really want your reader of your FRQ to know that you really comprehend what you're taking on. Moving on here. All right, so example. Give a real-world place, pattern, or process about which the question is asking. Pretty simple there. Identify, establish, or indicate who or what someone or something is, or this is actually often like a list, not a bullet point list. That's a big no-no. But what you're going to do is identify a couple of different things that might pertain to the question. So here is a good example of a question. So here's a statement. Development results in a number of economic and social changes within a country. A, identify, all right, so right here, we're going to be identifying primary, secondary, or tertiary economic activities. B, explain, right here, make clear or plain, put a lot of detail in there so we know what you're talking about. Explain 2 different reasons for each of the following changes that typically occur as a country develops over time. So 1, 2, and 3 here, we're going to have to explain 2 different reasons for each of these. So here is what an outline could look like if I were to write it out here. I'm not going to read everything off for you guys. INF is infant care. IMP is important. EMP is empower, but you guys can get the points here. So after I have drawn that out and after I've written this, these are the check marks that I'm going to draw. All right, of showing, hey, I've got these where I'm all set, and then I'm going to read it over again. So here's a breakdown, and I'm not going to read everything verbatim here, but here's a breakdown of this in long form. If you were to write this in a response, it wouldn't look exactly like this, but these would be the points. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions about how to write an FRQ, and we'll be doing this in class. All right, thanks.